Hi, I'm Rex Sikes, author of Life on Your Terms, and you're watching my show, Create Your Best Life with Rex. My guests include some really brilliant people, great minds, who have tips and advice and suggestions and strategies and methods and principles and practices for you to transform your entire living experience and make it glorious beyond belief. So watch my show. Hi. As you know, I'm Rex Sikes, and welcome to Create Your Best Life Ever with Rex. Today, I have an outstanding guest. I am so thrilled and so delighted to have him here today. If you've ever been in a health food store, and I'm sure you have seen him, you've seen his picture, you've seen his products, you've seen his contribution to the world of health and wellness. It is Udo Erasmus, and he's a pioneer of the health and wellness industry, having created flax oil and the healthy fats movement. And he's the co-founder of Udo's Choice supplement brand and a global leader in cutting-edge health practices and products, having sold tens of millions of bottles of healthy oils, probiotics, and digestive enzymes. Udo's an accomplished author, including Fats That Heal and Fats That Kill, and it sold over 250,000 copies worldwide, and a new book, the book on total sexy health, the 8 key parts designed by nature. Now, Udo has an extensive education in biochemistry and biology, a master's degree in counseling psychology from Adler University, and has impacted over 5 million lives by passionately conducting 5,000 plus live presentations, 3,000 plus media interviews, 1,500 staff trainings, and traveled to 40 countries with his message on how to achieve perfect health. And I'm very pleased to have him here today. Udo and I met, I think, about 5 years ago, and he's truly an amazing man. So I'm going to bring on Mr. Udo Erasmus and have you say hi there, Udo, if I can do this. There you go. There's
Hi, Rex.
Hi there. And how are you today?
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Early morning, and here we are.
Indeed. It's earlier where you are than where I am, but and I'm so pleased that you're here. And we're going to talk about a number of things today, and I'm thrilled to be able to do that. Well, let's do this, because some listeners, they may have seen you, and they certainly probably bought your products, but they may not know a whole lot about you. And I've given you some, from your intro, the bio, but can you talk about how you got into what you're into, and how you came to this? I know from a very young age you were interested.
Yeah, there's a big picture and a little picture. The little picture started with pesticide poisoning. That's how I got focused on health. And the big picture started basically when I was born in 1942 during the Second World War. We were in Poland. It was part of Germany at that time. And when I was 2, we were refugees fleeing from the communists who were chasing us in tanks and trucks. And mostly women with young children on horse-drawn hay wagons fleeing down the road. And the Allies were using us for target practice. These were the good guys.
Wow.
And I don't remember much, because I was only 2. I was not quite 3 yet. But just anxiety and fear and confusion and hunger, and just like I never knew as a kid what could I depend on. And so part of the reason why I went into science, to figure out how things work, and then into biosciences to figure out how creatures work, and then into psychology to figure out how thinking works, and then into self-knowledge to figure out how I work, was driven by that confusion. When I was 6 years old, we were living in Germany, and I listened to adults argue. And it occurred to me, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And as a 6-year-old, not knowing how complicated everything is, I said, I'm going to find out how. So that's been my driver all my life. And wow. Everything that interests me is about life, health, nature, and human nature, and anything that I can do to raise standard of quality of life on this planet, I'm interested in that, because there's so many ways. There's so many ways to do that. And my goal that I'm living into is 8 billion people live lit up from within, because the light's already within us. It's just a matter of looking into it instead of looking away from it. When we do that, we will feel so cared for, because life loves the body unconditionally, 24/7, 365, lifelong, never takes a day off, never complains. Even when we hate it, takes care of us. So we will feel so cared for that we won't steal each other's stuff. And when we stop stealing each other's stuff, we can live in harmony together. And when we live in harmony, it is very simple to make sure that every human being's basic needs are met in a long-term sustainable basis. So
Wow.
that's basically my picture.
Well,
there's no reason. We're wired for that.
Well, that's a beautiful picture, and I want to ask you this as a follow-up, because that's one, an amazing biography, and two, the idea of life loving the body. There are a lot of people who don't love their bodies, so they and they headwise they don't think positive thoughts, or they don't have positive practices. They may even engage in self-destructive behaviors. But I think this, and I'm just learning in some ways about the whole just love the body for what it is. When I was 25, it occurred to me that I had never thanked my feet for carrying me 25 years. And I was in a meditation lying down, and I just started to thank my feet. And from my toes and the skin and the bones and the cartilage, and it went through everything in my body. And I was so elated when I was done to have expressed this gratitude for being carried around the world. And even though there had been injuries and they had been sustained and this, that, and the other thing, they were always reliable, and it opened up something in me at that age. Can you address this for the people who might not really appreciate themselves the way they could?
Right. Okay. Well, so life loves the body unconditionally. And actually, I want to play a little game. See, if I pointed to you and I say, whose body is that? What do you say?
His body.
It's my body, right?
Or I would say, yeah, most people say my body, yeah.
Yeah, most people would say it's my body.
Right.
Okay, so you just told me that you're not the body. So if this is my body, then I'm the owner of the body. And who is the owner of the body? And we don't know.
Right.
But life is the owner of the body. How do we know that? When life and body part company, body's finished. Until life and the body parts company, life is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient in the body. It knows everything about the body because it runs the whole show, weighs nothing, runs everything, knows everything about the body, is everywhere present in the body, and is all power in the body. That's you. Now, what is that? Omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient is one of the definitions of God. So life is God in your body, right?
That's
now here's the thing. Life is the owner, and we are life in our nature, in our essence, in our personal essence, in our individual essence. And we have no idea who life is, what life is, because we don't spend time tapping into who we are. And so what do we do instead? Well, we got a whole lot of ideas, all are BS, right? And somebody said, and so we memorized this and we memorized that, and whether it comes from culture, it comes from politics, or it comes from religion, or it comes from what the neighbor said, or it comes from my parents' what I call the family neurosis, right? So, and then we learn that, and we never examine it. And it reminds me, Socrates said, "Know thyself." Yeah. Why didn't he say know everything but thyself? Because that's what we do. Why did he say know thyself? Because there's something to be known. There's something to find out. And he said before he drank his hemlock, he said, the unexamined life is not worth living. You want your life to be really worth living? get in touch with yourself.
That is beautiful, Udo. And I really like what you said about he didn't say learn everything else but about yourself. I mean, because
Right.
I mean that is truly what you pointed out, is that is truly what we do. We spend most of our time distracted with news or politics or religion or entertainment or arguments with spouses and children, instead of reflecting and examining who we are and allowing life to bless us and be all that we can be and love it and enjoy. I love your message. This is truly wonderful.
And the fact that as life, we are unconditional love. Once I experienced that by sitting still and getting present to it, there's my model for unconditional love. And then it's very easy because I feel so loved. It's not about me anymore. So now I can help. So now I can say, okay, what needs to be done around here? Before I was able to connect to that, I was everything I did always had an element, okay, and this is anxiety. I had lots of anxiety, right? What am I going to do that'll take care of me? There was always an element of me getting something from it. And when I started feeling taken care of, it wasn't so important anymore what I get out of it. It was important to do what needed to be done. So when I started working on fats, because I got poisoned by pesticides, for 15 years I was broke. So why was I doing it? I moved in with my mother when I was 41, and she had a stroke, and I was able to help her. So the timing was pretty good. But why would I do something like that for 15 years and not make any money? It's because I saw that when I realized how much damage we do to oils industrially and in food preparation, I said, we should be making oils with health in mind. And I can't get healthy on damaged oils because I had been poisoned by pesticides.
And the pesticides are stored in the fat, correct? Is that
well, the oil soluble ones are all stored in the fat.
Okay.
I didn't even go there. I sweated and fasted and paid attention and changed my diet, and then decided, we should be making oils with health in mind because I can't get healthy on damaged oils. And then omega-3 was established as essential, 1981, the year after I got poisoned. So I had my head buried in the journals looking to understand how physically I could get healthy. And I got so excited. I had an orgasm. I honestly, I was like, oh my God, if we could make oils with health in mind and bring omega-3s back into the diet for people and optimize their intake, because 99% of the population doesn't get enough of them. They are a nightmare to work with because they're super sensitive to damage by light, oxygen, and heat. And every cell needs them. So there have to be lots of symptoms of not getting enough. If we could bring them back in the diet, we could help so many people. I was so excited. It was like, I found a purpose for my life. and then that enthusiasm that came out of that insight basically drove the whole idea of creating an industry of making oils with health in mind.
Well, I mean, the flax oil, Udo's oil. I mean, you've done so many things. I mean, I can't walk into a health food store and pass the refrigerator section without seeing your picture and on your products. Let me ask you this. Is it fair to say that most oils, commercial oils, I buy olive oil off the shelf or avocado oil or sunflower oil or whatever, is damaged, that it's probably rancid almost by the time I open the bottle?
Yeah, not rancid. Rancid means reaction with oxygen. But it's damaged in all kinds of other ways. And most of the oils are somewhere between 0.5% to 1% damaged by the processing. That's before you fry them and damage them more. And that doesn't sound like a lot, except if you have a tablespoon of an oil that is 1% damaged by the processing, there will be 60 quintillion damaged molecules in that tablespoon of oil, which is more than 1 million damaged molecules for every one of your body's 60 trillion cells. And 1 million damaged molecules for every cell in every tablespoon is a lot. and that piles up. And because they're unnatural, the body doesn't get rid of them very well. And so they pile up, and you get, and then you use 2 to 4 tablespoons a day on average, adults do. And then you do that for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And they're associated with inflammation, which is the foundation of many of the degenerative conditions. And it's associated with cancer. And then if you throw it into the frying pan, you put it in the damaged oil in the frying pan, you damage it a whole lot more. And frying is associated with cancer. And my quip is, fried oils fry health. So this is like a chant, right? Fried oil, fry health, fried oils, fry health. And I tell people, you get your frying pan, turn it upside down, hit yourself on the head with it really hard, so associated with pain, and throw the damn thing out, because it's going to cause you a lot of problems. Frying is the dumbest thing we ever invented to do to our food from a health perspective.
That is totally remarkable. I mean, when you put it that simply, and that, I mean, it's truly profound. I mean, I've been an advocate of my personal health for
2 weeks.
Yeah, a couple of minutes. No, but I mean, in general, since around 2004, I got serious about. I said, hey, I got to eat better. I got to stop what I'm doing, and I got to change. And I became sensitive to things like this. That's kind of how I know about you, and the things like. But it's always been, don't fry or do this or poach instead of, or do a soft boiled egg instead of a fried egg, because you're damaging. Yep. But what you've just said basically really go, okay, done.
Yeah. Let me tell you one more story. When I give my talks, sometimes I'll ask people, I tell them that there's some damage done to oils and 1% damaged. And so I say, okay, well, if I had a tablespoon of oil, how many molecules do you think would be in that tablespoon? And they nobody says anything. So I say, well, just guess, because I know you don't know, because because you never thought about it. So just guess. So they always guess at least 1 billion times too low.
Really?
The number of damaged molecules. So then I say to them, look, here's the thing. You're going to fly home, and before you get on the plane, somebody tells you that your chance of crashing and dying on this flight is 1 billion times higher than you thought it was. Would you get on the airplane? I was in Ireland. I told them I would canoe home to Canada, because my chance wouldn't be that good, but it'd be better than 1 billion times worse. Right. So because if you've underestimated the risk you're taking by using these oils by 1 billion times, is that enough for you to think about it a little more seriously?
Well, that's driving the nail into it. That's really
for sure. But the thing, it comes from real interaction, real experience, real understanding, which is where we don't understand it that well.
Well, I mean, we live in a culture, especially in the United States, which is now fanned out around the world, where people get fast food, they get fries and their burgers, and it's fried, and it's this, and it's deep fried. And I'm currently in Wisconsin. I go back and forth between Los Angeles, where you can get healthier food, and Wisconsin, where everything is fried cauliflower, fried cheese curds, fried fish, fried this, fried that. And then Wisconsin is one of the most obese states of the United States, and one of the most. So it makes perfect sense, and yet people aren't getting, they don't hear it with the. If you're not doing this the right way, you really are suffering consequences. I mean, I don't know what it takes to get people to say, I'm going to change my lifestyle. But what you say to me really resonates with me. It makes me go, oh, gee, be a whole lot more sensitive to what's going on, especially with food processing and oil. So can I ask you just, so the recommendation, get rid of the frying pan. And then when it comes to oils, I mean, obviously you have oils. So how should people use oils in order to benefit themselves?
Well, let me back up a little bit. In the world of fats and oils, there are only 2 things you need: omega-3 and omega-6. They're called essential fatty acids because your body has to have them but can't make them. So you have to get those from outside. And if you don't get enough, then your health goes down. You get deficiency symptoms. They're degenerative in nature. They get worse with time. And if you don't get enough long enough, you die. These are the essential building blocks for body construction. If you don't get the building blocks in optimum quantities, life cannot make you an optimum body. Okay, you cannot make yourself an optimum body. Right. So that's the definition. So, but if you are going down and before you die, you bring enough of them back into the diet, then everything that comes from not getting enough is reversed, because life knows how to make the body, provided you make the decision to take responsibility to bringing them in here. So once they land in your body, life can use them. That's the definition of essential. Only omega-3 and 6 are essential. Everything else, your saturated fats, your monounsaturated fats, your butters and your coconuts and all of that, that's all optional. And if they're in their natural state, you can take all of these things and then fry them and overheat them or have them react with oxygen or light and damage them and turn them into toxic. That's why the book is called Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, because there are literally two opposite stories on fats. And once you understand that, all you have to figure out is which are the good guys and bring them in, and which are the bad guys and keep them out, right? But if you don't understand that, then you don't even have a choice. So does that answer your question?
Well, it does. But you made an interesting point. You said, coconut and butter and all that in their natural state. So in other words, if I get butter, I should get raw butter. If I get coconut, I should just eat the coconut like a fresh young coconut, not get coconut oil, or?
Yeah, it's always better the whole food. It's also always better to head in the direction of plant-based whole foods, because the research is clear now that longest life and best health comes from a plant-based whole food diet plus a B12 supplement if you've completely excluded animal products.
Wow.
So and then regarding the fats, you only need omega-3 and 6, and you have to have those.
And you have to have them in a proportion, don't you?
Yeah, you also have to have them in the right ratio. And coconut and olive oil, and those are the two popular things, don't contain omega-3s at all. Coconut doesn't even have omega-6s, very little, like 6%. And olive oil has 10% omega-6, and most of it is stuff that your body can make out of sugar and starch. Like all of the saturated fats, your body can make those. So that's why they're not essential.
All right, so I have somebody in my mind. I have somebody going, hey, "This is cool." All right, I throw out my frying pan. I'm not going to do that. But how do I have a salad?
No,
if I can't do,
no. So that what you do is you make your food, and if you're not going to fry, then if you're not eating raw, because nature's mandate was fresh, whole, raw, organic. Every creature eats like that except for us. And we think we're smarter than nature, and better living through chemistry has made a lot of messes on this planet. That's our smartness, right? So we've created a lot of problems for ourselves by thinking we're smarter than nature. And so what you do is, so if you're not eating raw, then you're going to cook. If you're going to cook, use water instead of fat. Okay? And then once you've got it cooked and you take it off the heat, then you can add good oils. So if you use something like flax oil or Udo's oil, you can put it in hot soup. You can put it on steamed vegetables. You do not want to put it in the frying pan if health is what you're interested in.
But it can be warmed up. It just shouldn't be fried.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So you put it on the food before you're ready to eat it. And in the salad, obviously, it goes in salads, and you can put it in shakes, and you can put it in smoothies, and like whatever you eat, whatever you love eating, lose some oil in it. Lose some good oil in it, but not fried. And lose it in it, because oils enhance flavors and they improve the absorption of nutrients. So it's a good idea to have oil with your food.
So I was going to say reiterate, but it really not reiterating. Excuse me. A lot of people do this. They go, "I'm switching my diet. No more red meat, but I'm going to have salmon," and then they fry themselves some salmon.
Yeah.
So they're actually not helping themselves a whole lot by putting the salmon then in the oil, which is it what? And so I should ask, is it better to eat the salmon fried than to not have it, or would it be better to not have the
Well,
fried salmon?
well, yeah. I'm going to answer the question in a different way.
Yeah,
Fish is now the dirtiest meat on the planet.
true,
Used
true,
to be a good source of omega-3s.
right.
Because everything that we've made, we dump on the land, and everything goes downhill. And if it goes downhill, it all ends up in the ocean. And the oceans are so polluted now with plastics, and the fish have plastic in them, like plastic beads in them. And they've shown that these plastic beads, when you eat the fish, end up in your body. They've measured the plastic beads in people's bodies. Well, when you have plastic beads in your tissue, they interfere with what's supposed to be going on there. And plastics are also associated with increased inflammation and increased cancer. So fundamentally, going from beef to salmon was a good idea 30 years ago. It's not a good idea anymore.
So
so you have to maybe can them both.
So I've got you hostage right now. I've got you cornered. What can people eat? I mean, there's so much of our topsoil is bad, and our foods are bad, and there's so many additives in processed foods. How you want to give a Udo's way to eat healthy, kind of if you can, a quick and dirty, down and dirty 6 tips that people can apply right away?
From wherever you are, go from frying to cooking in water to steaming to raw. So head in that direction wherever you are. Wherever you are, head in the direction of more vegetables, more plants, more whole foods. Head in that direction. And if you ever get to completely vegetarian, take a B12 supplement. But fundamentally, people say, oh, wow, I love the taste of meat. No, you don't. Meat tastes bland. And they say, oh, I love the taste of fried meat. No, you don't. If you scrape that stuff off and you put a tablespoon of it in your mouth, it would squeak between your teeth like chalk on a blackboard. It's acrid, it's bitter, it's scratchy, and it's disgusting. But what we do with the meat to make it taste better, we put plants on it. Rosemary, pepper.
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
Onions, like liver and onions, right?
That's
and all the flavors come from plants.
Wow. So
the idea of saying, oh yeah, we love this, that's so good. Plants is where the flavors are. Whether you're talking about sweet or sour or bitter or spicy, the only thing you don't get from most plants is salty. There are some plants that are salty, but mostly they're not.
Do you have do you care whether it's certified organic or locally sourced or just whatever they find in a regular market? I mean, there's farmer markets all over, not maybe so much today because of the quarantines, but in general, I mean, I've always been taught just shop the periphery of the supermarket and leave the center aisles alone. But I went, okay, I'm going to do organic. I want to make sure that there's nothing in it, I know our government has done everything they can to destroy organic and destroy labeling and destroy,
Yeah. Well, your question has the answer already built into it. Should I eat organic? Of course you should. Why would anybody in their right mind eat food that has pesticides on it? Pesticides, the only reason we ever develop pesticides is to kill things. And the chemistry of living creatures is similar. We have a lot in common with insects. We have a lot in common with plants. If you throw poison, if you use poison that kills plants or kills animals, they're probably not good for you either. So, and then because there's an industry that makes enormous money from these substances, the only way you can fight that industry is by not using their products. So you vote with your wallet to change the planet. If nobody buys pesticided food, then guess what? The pesticide industry will make something that we will buy. So we can change their mind by withholding our money.
Awesome.
But in order to do that, we have to be clear what is natural and what is not. And that involves some investment in learning how to live on the planet how to live stress-free in a stress-filled world, right? How to live poison-free in a poisoned world.
Well, that is awesome. So there's another topic that I want to get into, because there's another area of health that you're known for, but it's now for some reason becoming controversial all over again. It appears the notion of probiotics. There seems to be this whole anti-FDA thing on probiotics and whether they're helpful or not. And I've always seemed to have benefited from probiotics or eating probiotic type food. What do you say to what's going on socially, as well as the need to have?
I must be living under a rock. I've never heard anybody have a rational argument about not making use of probiotics.
Well, there's a lot in the news lately just saying that, they're just saying don't take them, that they aren't benefiting you. And I've been taking them for years.
Yeah. So, probiotics, what are they? Well, the world is full of bacteria. Right. It's like 10% of all of the biomass on the planet is bacteria. 10%. That's a lot. And you can't get rid of them. That's what we've tried to do that.
Right.
But you can't get rid of them because they just, like, wherever you kill them, they just come back out, right? And unless you sterilize the whole planet, right? Which we're not going to be able to do. And it's stupid to do that. It's a stupid approach. But there's three kinds of bacteria. One is important for rotting dead material, for breaking it down and recycling dead material, plants and animals, right? So I call those the rot bacteria. Second one is sick bacteria. They would love to live inside of your body because there's lots of food there and it's warm, and then they can reproduce well, and so it's a good life for them. But they would make you sick if they, cholera, typhoid, Salmonella, E. coli. So I call those the sick bacteria. And then there's a third kind of bacteria that protects you from the other two. And those are called probiotics. The idea that you need probiotics is just stupid. They play a very important role in our digestive system. And that affects everything in our body because they keep unfriendly bacteria under control. There's always some of those around. And if you look in nature, they were in the top layer of fermenting material, dead leaves and dead grass. That's where they hang out. When a plant pushes through the soil, it goes through that layer, and the soil bacteria are stripped back and stay in the soil, which is where they're supposed to be. And they pick up probiotics. And the probiotics cover the plants. And if you're eating the plants raw, you get probiotics in your mouth with every mouthful of food, like cows do in the meadow. And when I was a kid, we lived on farms, and the cows had very, very, very sweet breath. It was really interesting. So they never had bad breath. And where did they get it from? Well, because they got it from probiotics. If you brushed your teeth with probiotics every night before you went to bed, you would wake up with exponentially less severe bad breath in the morning. That's one of the jobs they do. But we usually swallow probiotics and get benefits from stomach down, but not from stomach up. So I brush my teeth with probiotics before.
Wow, I have never heard that.
Think about it, because that's how it was in nature.
God, that's amazing.
Right? Now, when we cook foods, we kill the probiotics. So because they're supposed to be on there, and because we're doing something that isn't nature's mandate, which is cooking foods, nature's mandate is raw foods. Every creature eats like that. Then we kill the probiotics, then we should replace them. Now, so where is the controversy in doing that? Probably what drives that controversy is people who do sick care rather than health care. The so-called healthcare system is actually a sick care system.
It doesn't exist in our country.
They don't make your body stronger. They just chop off the rotten parts, right? Or they find a way to deal with symptoms, throw some drugs at symptoms that don't fix anything. They just make you not feel them, right? Well, that's not healthcare. That's disease management. And they're good at some things. Crisis intervention, life support systems, your guy who's got staples in the back of his head this morning, they're good at that. And life support systems and monitoring or managing your downhill journey to the graveyard. They're good at that, but that's not healthcare. That's disease management. It has a place, but to misrepresent it as healthcare is actually, I think it's a crime. I think it's unfair. I think it misleads people. I think it takes away our choice. So it's a form of dictatorship, because when people lie to you, they take away your choice. That's called dictatorship. So my guess is that if there's like controversy, oh no, you don't need them, oh no, you shouldn't take them, that probably comes from people who benefit from you living out of line with nature.
Wow. You hit so many different areas there. I am firmly convinced that, profit has driven so many things.
Sure.
The fact that we have packaged food and preservatives and the fact that in our country, in the United States, this war against honesty or transparency and labeling the fact that we don't have
maybe you guys invented it, but everybody's doing it around the world.
Well, maybe so, but what I mean is that we used to have a consumer protection agency called the FDA that was supposed to look out for the consumer. Now they just look out for big pharma and big food industry and everything else. And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much, but the point is that we are getting so much disinformation and misinformation about our health and what we need in order to live, in order to serve. And I have no problem with money. I just want to make that absolutely clear. You can be as rich as you want, but I do feel if you're as rich as if you could be, well, I don't want to name anybody, but if you're as rich as God, then you have a social obligation to help the people that aren't as rich as you. You know what I mean? In other words, but we won't go there either. The idea being,
and then they call you a socialist, And,
right, because you're going to help out.
If democracy isn't social, it's not democracy, because democracy is supposed to be about taking care of the needs of the people. And it's supposed to be an administration of the affairs of the people so that everybody's needs are met. That's not exactly how the governments function anymore. And I don't want to pick on the US, because all the governments are.
It's true. It's happening. It's happening everywhere.
Begin by serving a need of the people, and then pretty soon they're just maintaining themselves, and then pretty soon after that they serve a small number of people at the expense of everybody else. That's what happens to institutions. Yeah.
Well, and we've gone through rise and falls of cultures and nations and civilizations. Before the pendulum swings one way, then it swings another way, and it is clear that we're in the best of times, in the sense that we can all wake up and learn to do and take charge of our health, both spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. But we're not necessarily in the best of times when it comes to what's being offered us, choices in our supermarkets or in our pharmacies or by our government or worldwide.
Right. And of course, America didn't invent that, because that was already happening in the Roman Empire. So
yes, indeed. And look what happened in the Roman Empire.
And in some ways, the fact that so many things have gone off the rails is part of the drive that's creating the new possibilities. I sometimes say, I'm glad for McDonald's, because they make me shine.
Good point. I think of it as, this is what's going on currently right now, politically and everything else. Is just a huge wake-up call for people to become aware of things that have festered and things that have been growing underneath and have been proliferated either in darkness or even in the light, but that people haven't paid attention to. And now is our chance. It's what's going on in America right now. People go, well, we want to go back to normal. And I go, not on your life. I want to go back to better than normal. I'd rather the whole thing apart and rebuild it new. If the democracy falls apart, we can build another democracy. We don't have to live with tyranny, and we don't have to live with communism. We can do what we want because we're building from scratch. So I don't want to.
I think COVID. I think the coronavirus has succeeded in doing something that none of the great masters, the Buddhas and the Christs and have been able to in their lifetime. Corona pulled it off in a couple of months to give the world a time out to think about what the hell are you doing?
You know what I mean? It's beautiful.
And I say to people, if you can't go outside because of lockdown, then go inside. And when you discover your magnificence inside, it will change how you feel, how you think, how you talk, and what you do.
You know, it's amazing because some people travel to monasteries. They go to Tibet, they go to India, they go around the world to find a place. You and I met, you know, in a place in California, kind of. But people travel all around to find comfort, to find themselves, to drop whatever is troubling them, to get away from the, you know. And COVID has given us this opportunity to do that. And then people sit there and watch Netflix and go, I'm bored. I can't stand this anymore. And I'm like, read a book.
or do one of those things that you claim you never had time for, but now you got time for it.
You got time to take a course. You got time to meditate. You got time to reflect. You got time to spend with family, whether it's by, you know, media or in person, you know, social, whatever. But it is a truly wonderful, glorious, incredible opportunity for all of us to wake it up a little bit and to improve ourselves, so that when the world does go back to not normal, but we resume going out into the world, maybe maskless again someday, that you're prepared for it. You know, that it's you know, why not use
and maybe appreciate it more.
I would hope. And so right now, people who are at home and they can go to the supermarket, they get your oil, they can get your book, they can start putting into practice things that they wouldn't do because they'd be at work, they'd be eating McDonald's, they're going to the restaurants, they'd be eating their fried food. Now there's an opportunity to start changing their life little by little. One of my favorite sayings is drop by drop, the tub fills. You know, drop by drop, the tub fills by Lao Tzu. You know, and the point is if even by little bit, if they start putting into practice positive practices that affect their health, like cooking with water instead of frying their foods, starting to, you know, use oils in a healthy way, they can transform their life in a fairly short amount of time.
Yeah, but then the other thing is that there's something in you, no matter what's going on, you know, your body could be completely wrecked and on its way out. Your mind could be, your thinking could be completely disorganized. Your social group could be completely dysfunctional, and your environment could be a disaster area, and perfect health would still be present in you, because life is perfect health. Energy cannot be broken down. Energy never gets cancer. Life never gets cancer. Body gets cancer. Energy never gets inflamed. Tissue gets inflamed. So something in you, the standard for perfect health, exists in every human being, no matter where they're at. And the more you get in touch with that standard, the more that energy will not only change your thinking in better directions, but also do the healing that is required, because healing requires energy. If there's no energy, there's no healing. And the less energy, the more things fall apart. So getting in touch with the energy you have and not wasting it in thinking and doubts and then stupid distractions would go a long ways to improve the quality of your life, no matter what else is going on in your situation, because it's built in. You have it. It's like what you're looking for on the outside, you already got going on the inside.
This is, again, so truly beautiful, you know, because we hear this, you know, law of attraction, and we hear stuff and people go, oh, it's airy fairy, it's, you know, but the world, the cosmos is infinitely intelligent. It is run in an organized way, even if it doesn't appear to. It's we who don't figure it out with our little limited conscious minds, you know, but the beauty is what you said. Again, I don't think a lot of people appreciate. They go, well, abundance is everywhere, which, you know, it's true, and it's within you. And then the only thing is that people don't claim it. They don't recognize it. But what you said, perfect health is there. It's already there. Now it's just yours, kind of like yours to discover, you know, I mean, to be open and receive it, as opposed to thinking I have to get it from somewhere else, or I've got to chase it down, or I've got to work hard to have it. You already have it.
The difference is between getting it and having it. Because if you think you need to get it from somewhere, you're saying, I don't have it. But the truth is, you already have it. It's already there. You just need to discover it. You don't need to get it. You need to discover it. You've already got it. We came into the world loaded with everything. If we took the time to sit still and just like ignore our distractions for a minute and just sit still and maybe just breathe and maybe just hang out with ourselves, we would discover that what we've been looking for everywhere, we have always had within us already. It's like, how cool is that? Right?
It's truly cool. It's truly beautiful, and it's so it's so right now. I mean, it's where we're at, and yet people think it's elsewhere, and it's so immediate.
Yeah.
And people think it's far away. It's at another time, like, you know, in the future it will be this way, as opposed to it's right here, right now. I mean, that is awesome.
It's closer than you thought. It's closer than your breath.
That is beautiful. I am so enjoying this, and I just want to remind the viewers that you're listening to Udo Erasmus, and he's the founder of Flax Oil, creator of Flax Oil and Udo's Oils. The book, I want to make sure I got the title of the book correctly. The first one, because fats that
heal, fats that kill.
Fats that heal and fats that kill. And his new book, the book on total sexy health, the 8 key parts designed by nature. And I'm so thrilled to have them here. We're going to have below links to Udo's materials and his products and things like that. There'll also be links to my area, my website and stuff like that. So all look in the description down below, and it'll be there for you to go and visit, to check it out, to get what you want. So let me ask you while we're going on, because we've talked about oils and changing health and but digestion and prebiotics. Is there what would you recommend in terms of this area with
for digestion?
Yeah, because that seems to be a trouble area for many people given the lifestyles that they have, or the stress that they, or the worry factors that they, that they allow COVID or whatever situation, to upset them. They have problems with digestion or problems with their stomachs, or it seems like this is where the wisdom of the ancients had it right. Even if you go with the 7 chakra systems or something like that, or the energy centers, we think of our brain in our head, but we don't think about our brain throughout the body, but we've described this through history. Our gut aches when we have certain issues, our heart aches when there are other issues, our head aches. So digestion.
So fats is the most neglected area in nutrition. The second area is digestion. And so I took on digestion after I did my fats work. And in digestion, there are really 3 things that we're messing up all the time. And two of them have to do with cooking foods. We already talked about probiotics. When you cook foods, you kill them, you need to replace them. So probiotic supplement and brushing your teeth with it, so it starts at the top where it's supposed to start, is really a good idea. And it makes a big difference to how the whole system works, because they play, and they're not essential nutrients, but they're essential for health. They do their job outside the body, because the inside of your digestive tract is actually outside the body. So that's people don't think about that much, but so they deal with that inside outside environment. The second one is that if you were eating raw foods, there are enzymes in raw foods that'll do about 60% of the digestion of the raw food for you. That means they more than half. I'm saying this wrong, completely wrong. They take more than half the load off your digestive system. But when you cook foods, you destroy the enzymes. So your body has to do more than twice the work, because you cook the food. Wow. So if you cook your food, then take enzymes to replace the enzymes. That's why enzymes make sense. And the most important enzymes are the protease, protein digesting enzymes, because when protein digestion doesn't work, you get a lot of problems. Food allergies, food sensitivities, they can turn into autoimmune problems, and bloating and pain and all kinds of stuff happens when you don't digest your foods properly. So digestive enzymes and probiotics should be replaced because they're killed and or destroyed when foods are cooked, or when foods are fried too. So going raw would be the other way to do it. To the extent that you're not doing it, then replace the enzymes. So those two are really important. The third one is prebiotic fiber. That's food for probiotics, but fiber has lots of other functions in the body that are important. And for that, the best way to deal with that is just eat more plant food. Eat more plant-based whole foods. You don't maybe need a fiber supplement, but eat the plant-based foods. And between those three, and then the fourth one is to help digestion, is bitters. Bitters are herbs. Dandelion and artichoke are probably the best known, but there's a whole bunch of bitters, and bitter herbs improve digestion. In fact, that's why some people have aperitifs, which are bitters in alcohol, or they have post-meal bitters in alcohol. The alcohol, if you leave the alcohol out, that'll be okay, but keep the bitters. And so bitters is number 4.
Before meal or post meal. Is there a conventional wisdom about when you ought to take them?
Yeah, usually if you're not alcoholized, usually people take them after the meal. But it doesn't really matter that much if you take them before the meal, because they help the liver do its job, and the liver has a huge job to do in digestion.
I have a bunch of bitters in my kitchen, but I gotta be honest, I don't boy, I inhaled something outside. Excuse me. But I don't daily take them like after every meal.
Yeah.
But I ought to, in other words.
It would work well for you, yeah.
Cool.
And then the other ones is oils. Oils help slow down your digestion a little bit so that you get more complete digestion. Water, obviously, for your digestive system. If you don't drink enough water, then the mucin layer that protects the inside of your digestive tract, then it can kind of dry out, and then you're more prone to ulcers and other irritations of the digestive tract.
So let me ask you about the fluids and eating, because if you live the conventional fast food thing, you go to a fast food restaurant and they supersize it, they give you this jumbo sugar-loaded soda, they give you a bunch of fries or some whatever along with your meal, but the question has to do with the amount of fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Better to eat and not drink a lot and allow your body to digest. Just take a sip or two if you need to because you're thirsty, but not pour a lot of fluid down when you're eating.
Right. The conventional wisdom is that you don't drink. You don't drink from an hour before the meal, and right. You don't drink for 2 hours after a meal.
Wow,
that's the conventional wisdom, but it depends on how good your digestion is, because the water will dilute your stomach acid. That's the reason why we do that, or the enzymes, the digestive juices. But if your digestion is strong, the amount that I did the math on that, right? In order to mess up your stomach acid, if your stomach acid is strong, then you're just like pH 1.5 to 2.5. The amount of water you would have to take, which is pH 7, this is a logarithmic scale, so like 7 to 6 is 10 times, to 5 is 100 times, to 4 is 1,000 times, to 3 is 10,000 times, to 2 is 100,000 times. So the water is so there, it would take a huge amount of water to really mess up your digestion. If your digestion is poor and your pH is already 3 or 3.5, then it's more critical that you don't drink with your meals. So I think the diluting your stomach acid is overemphasized.
Oh,
yes.
you
You want to understand, if your digestion is strong, you get away with just about anything. Just because it would take so much water to really mess it up. But if your digestion is poor, then it will take a lot less water. So it's better then to do that, to not drink with your meals.
well, but it also makes sense that the healthier you are, the more. I mean, not that you should do things that would harm you, but the more you could withstand, then the less. I mean, the more susceptible you are, it's probably do the least amount of health.
Right. And so drinking the water is an issue all day. You want to be well hydrated, and then you will have your stomach lining will also be well hydrated, and you will not be as prone to irritation of the inside of your digestive tract from dehydration.
Do you adhere to the notion of convert your body weight into ounces? Like, you're 200 pounds, so you need to cut that in half and drink 100 ounces of water.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Don't do it by math.
Okay.
Don't eat by number.
In test.
Eat by feeling.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I do, I'll tell you why. If it's summer, you're going to sweat more. So you obviously should be drinking more water than in winter. If you're working out, you're going to sweat more. So you'll need more water.
Right.
If you get enough oil, good oils, omega-3 and 6, form a barrier in the skin against the loss of moisture. So you're not going to dehydrate so much. If you don't have enough fats, you're going to lose a lot of water through your skin. So then you'll need more water. So you have to tailor it to what's going on in your body, and not just say, oh, let's just all do 8 glasses 8 times a day. Right?
Got it.
And at some point, we got to get wise. We got to get present to our bodies and pay attention to what our body's telling me. So somebody says to me, oh, your blood group is O, so you should be eating a lot of meat. You know what? I'm a O type. They're the meat eaters in the blood type diet, and plants work better for me. And so what do I do now? I say, well, either I'm really screwed up, or to hell with the theory. So what does it take for us to be present enough in our own being to notice what's going on, and to build our diet in a way that is responsive to our actual need, rather than to try and live by a theory in our head. And why else is that important? Because over the course of your lifetime, your nutritional needs will change. If you're working out a lot and you're physically very active, then you're going to need more protein than if you're a wizard and you just thinking and writing and talking, right?
Right.
So depending on what is your lifestyle and what is the part of your life cycle you're on, you need to be sensitive to that. And in order to be sensitive, you got to spend some time being with yourself and paying attention to how things work. And you should play with your food, almost like do experiments with your food. Play with your food. If somebody told you not to play with your food, that was bad advice. Play with your food, because how else will you know how things work in your body? Mm-hmm. But if you eat something and next thing you know, you're on the toilet and you got diarrhea, then that might be because of what you did, but it might be for other reasons. So you want to make sure that you don't make assumptions. and then you end up knowing, and your body, your life knows a lot about food, because how old are you?
Me? Yeah. I'm ancient. I'm time.
Okay, so I'm 78.
I'm 65.
I've been eating for 78 years. My life knows a lot about eating.
Yeah.
About foods, about consequences of foods, about health effects of foods, because it's omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient in my body. So my life knows a lot. Why aren't I asking life how I should live?
I love your wisdom. I so embrace your approach, is the notion. I hesitate to use the word intuitive, but the idea of listening to yourself, of being quiet enough of getting to know yourself, as you said, Socrates, and to understand how the body that you occupy, or that you as your vehicle, how that responds to the different things that you put into it or don't put into it, or the environment around it. So this is, exceedingly valuable to people who go, it's about mindset, it's about heart set, it's about what you put in the body, it's about, it's not just.
And it's about gut set.
And about guts.
You're talking about, the nervous system in the gut. Actually, I was thinking about that the other day. Jellyfish have been around for 250 million years. Mm. We've been around for maybe 200,000. Right. Maybe if you push it, maybe 2 million. Right? Jellyfish has no brain, but has a really well-developed digestive system. Actually, your digestive system is more important than your brain.
That's a very valid point, and that's not what we emphasize, is it?
No, and we pride ourselves in the brain, and everything is brain these days. And, oh yeah, brain nutrition, and brain this and brain that. And we've used our brain to really screw up a lot of things. Well, so we ought to take our so-called genius IQ with a grain of salt.
Well, now this is truly an important point, because we have obviously we've made it to the moon, but we've learned how to destroy ourselves with time. Not just nuclear wise, but through pesticides and through ill healthy practices and through
cutting out 3/4 of the trees that used to be on the planet. There used to be 10 trillion. There are now 2.5.
Because we think we're smart.
And we think that doesn't make a difference. And the reason we have oxygen to breathe is because so many plants got buried and couldn't rot. Because when a plant rots, it takes up all the oxygen it made when it was alive. It takes it up again.
Oh, wow.
So all these plants got buried and couldn't rot. So that left oxygen in the atmosphere. That's what we live on. Now we're digging it up as fast as we can, burning it as fast as we can. And we're increasing carbon dioxide, and we're decreasing oxygen in the air. And people say, well, it doesn't make any difference. I'll just be raptured. No, it is really crazy, and it's really irresponsible the way we live in nature.
Well,
and we have no gratitude, and we just pretend that we can just do anything we want and it won't have consequences. It's like, where did he get that? Everything has consequences.
Yeah. But for those people who say they'd just be raptured, they forget that they were given dominion over the planet, which meant to be a caretaker, not to destroy it.
No, they're going to be left behind. They're going to deal with the mess.
I agree. Now, I just lost my thought, but it'll come back, because it always. People who deny climate change should just see what happens when they contaminate a terrarium.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah, exactly. It's not hard to figure out.
I mean, it's just you live inside a glass, a cloud encased, closed system. As a planet, we're going through space. So get a terrarium and just pump a lot of smoke into it and start poisoning the ground and put all the stuff in to see how long the plants and everything lasts. I mean, it is a no-brainer.
I was on in the 60s. I spent a lot of time on beaches outdoors, and somebody had carved a sentence into a log, like in letters, like about an inch deep and a foot high. Mm-hmm. And I love the quote, and it sums up every environmental issue, and goes like this: when you shit in your nest, you will nest in your shit. Right?
That's a 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, and then the action, and then the call to action is don't shit in your nest. Right?
I do think that is, but that the interesting thing about the do not shit in your nest is a one way to think about things. The other is how about having a really incredible nest? Why, we've got a planet, I mean, I get up every day and I look outside and I just go, I can't believe how beautiful this world is. How incredible, even with all the contamination, all the problems, all the political, all the crap, this is a really, truly glorious place. and we should just be doing everything we can to make it sweeter. I mean, why do we want to destroy it? Why do we want to ravage it? And you know, just let's improve on it. If I mean, assuming that we could, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, beautify it, not you know. It's so. But that's what it is.
So not only should you not shit in your nest, you should also plant some trees.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You know, I'm trying to think of what it was. It was the '84 Olympics in Los Angeles, and the tree people had a mission to plant 1 million trees that year prior to the Olympics to replace the trees. So I was helping them, and I was going around Glendale, California, with trees and going, "Would you like to buy a tree?" I think they were $2, and people go, "What on earth would I do with a tree?" I go, "Well, the tree, you know, or you could give it to somebody to plant." Where the goal was to plant, and the mindset at the time was a tree, you know. But look at where we are. We could certainly use people planting trees today.
Yeah.
Let me turn the tide here just a bit, because we've talked for a while, and I want to make sure that we get to the book, Total Sexy Health: The 8 Key Points Designed by Nature, or the 8 Key Points Designed by Nature, and have you address and talk about that, because I got to tell you, I am thoroughly enjoying it. We got to do this again, because I have a sense that we could be talking for 10, 12 days now.
Probably.
I would be thrilled if we, you know. So, but let me turn to the book on Total Sexy Health: The 8 Key Points Designed by Nature.
Yeah, that book is the outcome of that question I asked when I was 6 years old, and I didn't know I was going to call it the book on sexy health at that point, but it came out of that question: how can we live in harmony together? There must be a way, and I'm going to find out how. So I told you I went through science and biosciences and psychology and self-knowledge, and the way the book actually came about was I was doing talks in many countries, traveling. I was on the road 6 to 9 months a year for 15 years, and just talking to everybody who would listen about what I knew. And I ran into people who went to everybody who had something to say, like all the experts. They went to all of them. They had notebooks and they took copious notes, and they knew more than I did. You know, I was specialized in fats. They knew so much about health, and they were sick. And the idea is, like, why is it that they're getting so much good information and it's not working for them? And it was like, oh, well, they're not putting it in practice. So they got all the information, but they're not putting it in practice. Then I was like, why aren't they putting it in practice? I mean, they say they want to be healthy, but why are they not putting it in practice? And the conclusion I came to was that when people will only put new things in practice when they can be lifted out of their thinking ruts. And to be lifted out of a thinking ruts requires to be inspired. So when you're inspired, then you feel good about being alive. Then you say, well, I like being alive so much that I want to extend it as long as I can. And so I will do whatever it takes in order to continue to have this enjoyable experience. If you're not inspired, it's all too much work. And if you're really uninspired, depressed, then you might even destroy your body, because life just is not worth living. So then it's like, okay, well, you want to give accurate information, but you also got to inspire people. And then the question became, well, what else affects health? And when I started looking at that, it's like, well, there isn't anything that doesn't affect health.
Right.
And so part of my mission in life was to make sense out of fats, because it was the most difficult area. And then the second one was to turn health into a teachable field. And the third one was to turn human nature into a teachable field. And the reason why I say that is for 200,000 years, we've been living ignorant of our own nature, always living in reaction into the environment, and not taking the time to understand how this works. And I think, well, that's really stupid. And I don't mean, we have to know all the molecular interactions, but what does it feel like to be alive? What does it look like to be alive? What will you find if you close your eyes and you shut off all your outside distractions? What will you find if you look into the darkness inside? Well, if you look deeply enough into the darkness, you will discover light there. There is light in that darkness inside, and you are that freaking light, right? And that light is beautiful. The same thing if you shut it off and you listen to the silence, you will hear a sound in the silence. That sound is your life. And the same thing when you feel empty, you sit down in the emptiness long enough, you will feel something. And that one we're made a little bit more familiar with. You can even taste your life. You can feel your life. and so what I realized is that everything affects health, and health is based on nature and human nature. So those two became one project. So the project is, the overview of it is the book on total sexy health, the 8 key parts designed by nature. And why 8 key parts? Because we think we're just one thing, but we're actually a composite of a whole bunch of different things with different natures. Like, for instance, you know that life and body are separable because at one point they part company. Life energy goes wherever energy goes, becomes invisible to you, body's finished. So you know that. You can be in a coma and your mind can be completely absent, but you're still alive. So there are 8 distinct and separable issues that affect health. Each has a different nature, a different function, needs a different kind of attention, needs attention on a regular basis, goes off in a different way, and responds to a different kind of intervention. And if you want to live the best life, that's sexy, is the best life. Mm-hmm. It's really about being present and attractive and juiced and full on, right? That's what sexy really is in street language. It's not about body positions, and it's not about copulation. Right. You know, so we talk about sexy architecture and sexy ideas and sexy art, and so I'm using sexy in that sense, full on, present, right? And if you're in line with all 8 parts, then you're going to be your optimum sexy. But if you're out of line with a part of nature or your nature, then that's going to take away whatever sexiness it confers to you. So when you get out of line, you lose it. And when you get back in line, you get it back. So that's the model, right? So what are the 8 parts? If you start from the center, the deepest part of your being, you have to start with awareness. Awareness is what is awareness? To be aware that you're aware, right? Mm-hmm. There's no content, but there is a presence. No content, but a presence. I call that internal awareness. That's the place out of which everything else comes, in which it dances, and into which it disappears when it's done. So awareness is number 1. That's where your peace lives. That's where your wholeness lives. And when you get disconnected from that awareness, then there's always this thing about something's missing. I'm still looking for something, or like U2, was it U2, that song? But I still haven't found what I'm looking for, right? Right. So when you disconnect from that, that's becomes your dominant mode. So that's internal awareness. I'll get back to that. Second one, out of that comes life energy. We've talked about life energy a little bit. Weighs nothing, runs everything. Formless, perfect health. By the way, awareness is beyond health. I call it beyond health, because it's not affected by life or death or light or darkness or sickness or health or anything. It's beyond time, space, energy, and matter. Okay, so this is like foundation, source. God, I suppose would be a good, but you have to experience it for it to be real. So I don't want to create more theories about God. We got enough of those. So the second is life energy. Third is inspired creativity. That's a part of the mental makeup. It's the bridge between life and the body, or life and the world. And it's where your originality and your genius and your inventiveness and your uniqueness and your intuition and your inspired thinking comes from. And it's the shine of life. That's what inspired creativity is. And it's also where you deal with potential problems preemptively. So inventions, why we're safe, and we're not worrying about somebody eating our bum while you and I are talking, right? Comes out of, glass and houses and shelter and protection, came out of that. Then there's physical body, food, fitness, digestion, and detox. Those are the four, or toxicity, detox. Those are the four main parts. That's what mostly people focus on when they talk about health. But it's actually only 1/8 of health. Then the next one is survival smarts. That's the other side of mind, which is the interaction between the body and the environment. And then there's social group, because you know that who you hang out with affects your health, right? In fact, when I was a kid, I remember people would when they get really angry at somebody in school, say, "You make me sick." Yeah. we knew it even then, right? And then there's environment, nature. And then there's a big picture. The big picture is, I call it infinite awareness. And the big picture is to be okay that you're an infinitesimal, temporary body living in an infinite universe, and that one day the body's end, the human body is a terminal condition, right? And each one of those is different. And the goal, if you want to live the fullest life, is to be fully present in all of your being and your surroundings, and not lost in thoughts in your head.
Wow.
And each one of them you practice. The first three are most ignored: internal awareness, life energy, and inspiration are most ignored. So that is where most of our answers that we're not finding will be found. The place where we haven't looked, because we haven't found them there. We haven't found them because we haven't looked where they are, right? Now, how did we get so distracted? There's a story for that. When you were in your mother's womb, I call the womb the Buddha tank. Okay. So when you were in the Buddha tank, before you were born, there was nothing to do. There was nowhere to go. It was relatively safe, and everything was taken care of. And so, because there was nowhere to go and nothing to do, your awareness was at rest, inside, in its source, in life, in the core of your being. And so you were present inside in your awareness, but absent outside. By the way, that's the Buddha state, right? That is the Buddha state. So you spent 9 years in the Buddha state if you were not a preemie, right? Right? If you were a normal pregnancy, you spent 9 months in the Buddha state. And then you came out into the world and everything changed. You had to get to know the world. You had to learn the language. You had to figure out how to survive, what to do, how to fit in, do all the things that we do. And in that process, your awareness, or the focus of your awareness, went from being present inside, absent outside, to being present outside, absent inside. And that disconnect was the beginning of heartache. Heartache, the thing that you feel in your chest when grandmother dies, or your dog runs away, or somebody betrays you, or your girlfriend dumps you or your boyfriend dumps you. And we have different names for it, blues and sorrow and grief, but we always feel it in the same place. And there are so many different things that set it off. And why is that? Is because our default state after birth is a state of loss of our connection to ourselves.
Right. Wow.
And we substitute outside things for that, hoping that that will complete us, because it's our this feeling of loss is actually our driving force. So everything we try to do is we hope that somehow we'll get satisfaction out of it. We hope somehow we'll be okay again. And of course it doesn't work, because we are already okay. We just need to bring our awareness home. So when people lose one of their distractions, then it's not about the distraction that this ache comes from. That's the trigger. Mm-hmm. But that distraction is actually, in its reality, in its foundation, is your heart calling your awareness to come back home to yourself, to life. Isn't that cool?
It is so cool. It is so cool.
And everybody feels it. I have 10 pages of words people use for that feeling.
Wow.
10 pages. And under different circumstances, we call the same basic issue, that is the central issue for every human being, about the ache of the heart to feel whole. Right? And that ache we don't like. So what we do is, when we feel that ache, we ignore it, we deny it, we try to find a distraction, we distract ourselves from it, or we blame it on somebody, right? And so what I do with people, sometimes I do a conversation on the thirst of the heart. It's the most important not had conversation on the planet. And it's about 30 questions. It begins with, if I were to talk to you about the thirst of the heart, what would that mean to you? That's how I find out what is their word for it.
Wow.
And we have a conversation about that thirst of the heart using their word. And I've never met anybody who didn't know the thirst of the heart. Now, what's weird about it is that, when you're thirsty, you know what to do. When you're tired, you know what to do. When you're hungry, you know what to do. When your bladder's full, you know what to do. When your heart aches, you have no idea what to do. Because there's nothing in any culture that I've ever been to that is systematically addresses the central issue of existence, which is our disconnection from ourselves. So what I do is I have this conversation and I say, at one point I say to them, so if I were to tell you that this feeling that you call whatever you call it, that you don't like and find a way to distract yourself from, was the greatest gift you've been given other than being alive, what would be your response? And then, would you like to know why I say that? Now, here I have 5 reasons for it. Number 1, it's your it grounds you, gets you out of your head, makes you simple. Although people go here and then sometimes they go a little down into fear and anger, or up into rationalization. But it always starts here. It grounds you, gets you out of your head, makes you simple. Is it true? Oh yeah, most people get it. Number 2, it's your driving force. It is the reason why you do what you do. Because whatever you do always has an element, somehow I need what I do to fulfill me, to people look for job satisfaction. Well, job satisfaction comes from you, not from the job. If you put satisfaction into your job, you'll have it. But if you try to get it from the job, it'll be short-lived, right? So number 2, it's your driving force. And I've talked to billionaires, and I said, let me tell you how your life goes. You feel you feel uneasy, you feel like you got to do something. And then you come up with this monster project. And subconsciously, or maybe even consciously, you hope that when you accomplish this monster project, you'll feel okay. And what happens, and you work your ass off for 20 years, you accomplish it, you have 3 days where you go, yay, I did it. And then you feel depressed again. And one of the guys, I said, well, I wouldn't call it depressed, but let down. Okay, you feel depressed, right? And then you say, okay, well, either I didn't think big enough, or I was thinking in the wrong direction. So you then adjust it and do it again. And the problem with that is that the satisfaction you're looking for in your accomplishment is something that already exists in you, and you will not find it. You will never find it in your accomplishment. You will always find it in you, but you have to bring your awareness home, and you don't have to do anything to feel fulfilled. Okay. So that's the second thing, is it's your driving force. The third is it's your heart calling your attention to come back home to life. The fourth is it is the only starting point to get there. See, if you're going to go on the journey from discontent to content, you got to be willing to accept that you're discontent. That's like putting your feet in the blocks to run a race. Right. If you're not willing to put your feet in the block, then you're not gonna win the middle, because you're not going to run the race. You're going to be doing something, but you're not going to run the race. And number 5 is, if you have learned to come back to yourself and you feel taken care of, your awareness will drift away again, and the ache will return, and it will be your reminder to spend time connecting with yourself to feel fulfilled.
Wow.
And so so what it is, it's a reframe for people. And I say, well, so what should you do? What if, when you feel it, instead of trying to find a distraction, you sit with it, stay with it, feel it. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to hurt you. It might feel intense. You might cry a few tears. Sit with the ache. Maybe accept it. Maybe embrace it. Maybe be grateful for its power to pull you to yourself. And that far behind that ache is your fulfillment. And maybe from that ache, you can drop into your fulfillment. Or if you can't, at least you should try it. And if you can't, then look around. If you want the fulfillment, ask questions. Find people who might know something about it. Maybe there's a particular practice that you can learn from somebody, or you can invent your own practice. But one way or another, get obsessed with the fact that it is possible for you to live your life from a place of fulfillment and love and peace and joy, all built in. Feel incredibly rich, because that is the riches. That is the real riches of human beings, is feeling rich.
Wow.
There's a guy in Germany. This is like so cool. It's a guy in Germany, $9 billion. He had $9 billion. 2008, he lost $500 million. He still had 17/18 of his wealth. So he only lost 6% of his wealth. And he was so upset that he jumped in front of a train and killed himself in Germany. So the idea that money will make you rich is complete bullshit.
It's true.
It's complete bullshit. Because happiness makes you happy. Feeling rich makes you rich. And you are, and I am, the richest people we know. I am the richest person I know. And every human being inside, if they're present in their own life, is the richest person they know. And it has nothing to do with money Money becomes a means of exchange. And if you have more than you need, then you can make it work to better whatever needs to be bettered, right? And that happens on environmental and social and psychological and physical levels. And you know, and if you don't have any money, you will be just as rich as if you have a lot of money, simply because rich is a feeling built into every human being by the universe that created us.
That is so beautiful. That is so very beautiful. And everything that you just spoke on, and the 8 points, or the 8 parts, and the 8 points that it's one of those things where we absolutely not only have left that presence of awareness and focus on the outside. It's amazing that someone will say, I'm bored, and then they to outside to figure out what to do. Like,
Right.
Oh, I don't want to go to a movie. I don't want to watch TV. I don't want to do that. I mean, they cycle through all their options a lot of times, and nothing is satisfying. But if they could realize that they could look within and no longer be bored, that boredom is an expression of something. The attention. It's amazing. Attention has gone from our awareness and our richness and our abundance and our love and who and what we are beyond the body and the mind, and and into these. And I don't know that it isn't also a cultural. My dog is making noise.
Yeah.
They're the most
I pulled up my leg because I didn't want it to bite me.
Her bark is definitely worse than her bite. At the dog park, people are terrified of her because she growls, and she's just. I shouldn't say that because she should be a good guard dog, but she's just a beautiful, wonderful spirit. But the point being is that so many people get up, they drag their butt out of bed, they regret going to work, they put in the hours, they hate what they're doing, they don't like their coworkers, they eat their crappy food, they go home, they turn on TV, they beat their spouse or whatever, or their children, or they yell at something, and they go to bed and they start it all over again. And they're looking for something that gives them meaning, and it's always something over there, something out there, something back then. So They drag around the baggage from the past, or they put all their hope into the future instead of just dropping right into who they are right now and discovering
that it's all there.
That it's all right there, right now. Yeah, I mean,
let me say a couple of things. One is, first of all, human beings are unique among creatures in this journey of disconnection to reconnection. Like trees never disconnect; they're just always in that place. So every tree is a Buddha. Right? And animals will go out and come back to themselves, and we go out and we get into our head. And so we don't go back to our essence, we go back to our head. That's why the brain is as much of a problem. And that's why the jellyfish has a better deal. Good digestive system, no head, no brain at all, right? And the second thing is that, so this is natural, this is normal, natural to human beings. Every human being comes into the world, and pretty much every one of them gets disconnected. And the disconnection is automatic because it's for survival. So your awareness comes out automatically through your senses. Whenever something changes, you're attracted to it. But there's nothing that automatically takes you back. So the coming back has to be deliberate. And what makes it easier and what makes it possible, and why this ache is such a gift, is because it will call you. It will call you whenever you get disconnected. If we didn't have that, we would get lost and never find our way home. We can find our way home, but then we have to acknowledge the ache of the heart, right? And so, and then let me say one more thing about boredom. When people start, they heard they should meditate. They heard they should do some stillness practice. And then they sit down and they say, oh, I don't want to do that. It's so boring. Right. When I hear that, I say, great. Have you ever noticed how peaceful it is in your boredom? Fall in love with the boredom because you have managed to get out of your addiction to activity. You're now in a no man's land. And if you go a little bit deeper, you will discover the beauty of your existence. So think of boredom as a good sign when you're doing that.
It's interesting because I do think that we're meaning makers and time binders. We assign meaning to things, whether the meaning is correct or not correct, and mostly it's. Yeah. I mean, no matter what we say, it's not what it is. The named is not the thing. But it is. I try to encourage people to go out to nature, go sit in some vista somewhere where they just awe-inspired, where they just lose themselves and they just look and they go, "Oh my God, how awesome!" And they just have that sense of awe, and then realize that's what's going on inside. That same sense of awe is what you're present with. Now you've just kind of captured it. You're looking at this vista and not realizing the awe is from here.
Right.
So it's truly an amazing. I love how you have put this together and stated it in the way that you encourage people and inspire people for health in all areas. I do think that a lot of people's problems is simply chasing what they already have, not realizing that they already have it. Napoleon Hill. I mean, I know you know this, but I mean, studied 520 people. Because Carnegie gave him entree to people for 20 years. And he said, I got to know them, their spouses, their kids. I lived with them. I was in their homes. They were the richest men on the planet at the time. And toward the end of his death, before he died, a few years before he died, he said, only one of them came out of it unscathed. He said many of them either committed suicide or ended up in psychiatric hospitals, became drug addicts or alcoholics. Their children the same way. They lost their fortunes. They got, arrested for, fraud or whatever. He said, but one person, John Burroughs, and the naturalist, was the only person whose goal was not to just be fabulously wealthy, but to have peace. And he learned to have balance and peace. So the notion that, anybody can have wealth, I mean, it's there, it's present. And I don't say that as a discouragement for people, but the idea being that the billionaire who killed himself while having $8.5 billion left because he lost some money. I mean, it's truly sad that. So what I think of it is this: you're God, and you decide you're going to go play a game of hide and seek with yourself, and so you give birth to this thing, and then you squeeze these people out through an orifice and the whole thing, and in the whole process of it, the biggest trap you give them is their brain, where they can think about all the reasons and all the stuff and everything else, and God, and I think of it. My analogy is it's like everything is a mirror, and then that mirror is taken and shattered, and all of you and I are all these little tiny shards of mirrored glass, and so we reflect each other, we reflect the universe, we reflect everything, but we forget that we were the mirror, and yet that's exactly what we are. We are God, and God is playing hide and seek on God. And so, and that last trap is our thinking process. That's it, and once we get out of that, I mean, we obviously got to go into the heart and become aware and connect as you say. But I mean, it is that last distraction. What a brilliant way, to deceive yourself that you're not who or what you are, is to think that you are not who or what you are, but that somewhere else, it's got to be somewhere else. It's got to be this money. It's got to be this girl. It's got to be that guy. It's got to be my car.
But every clue for finding out that you're part of the mirror is built in to each shard. The clues are all built in.
Well, that's what I love about what you just said, that calling, you're constantly being called, you're constantly being reminded, you're seeking yourself out, and then some people answer the call and some still are running elsewhere in the meantime.
Right. Well, what's interesting to me, and I think maybe this is where COVID and the change and the pressure we're under to live differently comes in, is that I forget where they're going to go now. Okay, well, I don't remember.
It's about a wake-up call. It'll come to you. Well, while you're thinking of it,
there's a story. There's a story. The other story about talking about God, right? So God's upset because people keep calling him and bitching and complaining about everything, right? So I gave them everything, and they're just bitching, complaining. I just want to get up. I just want some distance. So they say, okay, we'll go on Mount Everest. No, they'll find me. They say, okay, we'll go on the deepest hole in the ocean. No, they'll find me. And a little guy comes along and says, I know what you need to do, God. Live in their hearts. They'll never look there.
Never look there.
Live in your hearts. They'll never look there. But the thing is, we are looking there, and something's calling us to look there.
And I do think in the infinite wisdom of if what they call infinite intelligence or cosmic consciousness or whatever, is that we are offered whatever we're offered. It is what it is. I've always said, before humans took up residency on this planet, there was the ice age, there were volcanoes, there were meteor strikes, there were horrible storms and sunny days, and nobody said it was a good or bad day because there's no judgment about it. It's just what it is. And then we showed up and we go, crap, it's raining, I can't go outside.
You need one of these to make the judgments.
Yeah, exactly. But it is just what it is. And at the same time, I do think that as a collective consciousness, as the consciousness that exists, that gives expression and rise to the people and the plants and the animals, it knows what we need when we need it. And then we judge it good or bad or right or wrong or go, crap, I have to stay home. I mean, there are people eating dirt in countries that don't have enough to live, that are in terrible, horrible. There are people who have dug themselves out of prisons with a spoon, and somebody's sitting home going, I have to stay in my house and watch Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know. Yeah. The comparison, yeah.
So, but what you have said is so absolutely beautiful, and what you have done and contributed in your lifetime is just so truly amazing. And I want to point out again that the links for Udo Erasmus and Udo's oils and his book and everything will be down below in the description. So I want to be sure that everybody goes there and finds you and finds your materials. If they don't already know you, and if they're not already, got some of your products or reading your book, then they owe it to themselves to go and do that now and click on those links. So, God, Udo, I want to give you the last couple of words. There's an official close to the show that will follow this, but I want to be able to. I got to tell you, I enjoyed this so much. I want to do this again.
Yeah.
But
what are you gonna say? It's like if you knew your magnificence, you'd be dancing in your living room. Get to know your magnificence. Nothing missing. There has never, ever been anything wrong with you. Even though you felt bad, and then you had negative thoughts, and then you said destructive things, and then you maybe acted badly and had bad consequences. But you are not your actions, you are not your words, you are not your thoughts, you're not your feelings. You are life, and there has never, ever been and will never ever be and can never ever be anything wrong with life. If you get to know yourself like that, your behavior will change, and everything that people judge about you will become less, will attract more positive judgment.
That's so beautiful. Well, my friend, I'm so glad that you're here today. As I said, I would love to do this again sometime in the future, but thank you so much for everything you shared for me and us and the world at large, from the time you were little to today and beyond.
Yeah, so, I'm glad I went through the war, because it rubbed my nose in what's possible early, because what I was in was impossible. So I look at it as a gift now, although it didn't feel like a gift when I was in it. But sometimes the worst disasters become the greatest, lead to the greatest good. So here we are.
Absolutely, and here we are. Well, I wish you a fabulous, miraculous, wonderful rest of the day. Much love and peace and blessings to you, and namaste, Udo. And to you, the viewers of Rex, again, this is Creating Your Best Life with Rex. And check out the links below, and we'll see you next time. Oh, but before you go, do this. Make sure that you share this. If this has touched your heart and Udo's words have reached you, reached your mind, reached your heart, reached being in any which way, feel free to share this and encourage other people to click the links and to get to know Udo in a much more intimate way through his links, his products, and his oils, and all the marvelous offerings that he has. Because this has truly been a valuable time and well spent time, and so share it and pay it forward, and have a blessed day yourself. So thank you all very much, Udo.
And thank you for expanding the message.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So long for now, and thank you, and have a really beautiful, beautiful day. That's it, everybody. You've been watching Create Your Best Life with Rex. I hope you will apply the powerful principles and practices you've learned in today's show. And also click the links below to go to my website and my guests. There's powerful programs, principles, and practices waiting for you when you click those links. Do it today and create your best life ever.